Here's everything you need to know about Carnage. This is Nerdist Now. The trailer for the much-anticipated Venom sequel, Venom Let There Be Carnage, dropped last week, and as expected, there do be carnage. Woody Harrelson returns as the serial killer Cletus Kasady, who goes on to become the murderous symbiote Carnage, and this time he's doing it without a wig made of leftover pieces of gritty. Now, for those of you who don't know the history of Marvel's most malicious murderer, we're here to help. And some of you might be considering what we're about to get into spoiler territory for the upcoming Venom movie, so we will give a light spoiler warning just in case you want to go in completely unenlightened. If that's you, make like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark and exit stage left. The Cletus Kasady incarnation of Carnage basically answers one question. What if Venom and the Joker had a baby? Created in 1991 by writer David Michelini and artist Erik Larsen, old Cletus Kasady made his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man 344. Kasady was born inside the Ravencroft Institute, which is essentially Marvel's version of Arkham Asylum, and he was quickly handed off to his grandmother after his biological mother, a paranoid schizophrenic, died during childbirth. As for Cletus, he may or may not have died as a baby, then been resurrected by the Dark God Null. Who can say? Because there's a Rashomon-esque quality to everything that follows. He was either sent to live with his foster parent or his biological father and a stepmom. He's kind of an unreliable narrator. And from there, the hits just keep on coming. As a kid, he killed his abusive grandmother by pushing her down a flight of stairs. He also went on to kill his foster mom's dog and tried to kill his foster mom as well until his foster dad or biological dad came home to finish the job. As a result, Cletus was then sent to live at St. Estes Home for Boys, where he murdered the administrator, pushed a girl that wouldn't date him in front of a bus, and ultimately burned the orphanage to the ground. Now, I think you can sense a pattern that's developing here. Kasady went from being a horrible kid to an even worse adult, becoming one of the most despicable villains in the Marvel Universe, serving multiple life sentences for his dozens of murders. And during his time in prison, he became cellmates with one Eddie Brock. At this time in the comics, Eddie Brock had been separated from his sweet goo boy Venom after losing a fight with Spider-Man, and his cellmate Kasady was unconvinced that Eddie was this malicious symbiote that he claimed to be. So the two didn't get along, to say the least. Now, fun little side note here, Michelini actually planned to kill off Eddie Brock in Amazing Spider-Man number 400. He originally wanted to have the symbiote break off from Eddie Brock and take on these different hosts, but Venom had become so popular, Marvel wouldn't let him do it. As for the other hosts and symbiotes, well, there are plenty of those, but that's a story for another video. Back to the matter at hand, Kasady decided to try and murder Eddie with a shiv, and during a fight in their cell, the symbiote finds its way back to Eddie Brock and merges with him. However, during the subsequent prison escape, a symbiote offspring is left behind and takes on Cletus Kasady as a host. So technically, Carnage is Venom's wretched little goo boy. And as we theorized in our trailer breakdown video, which you can watch in the description below, a scenario like this might be how Carnage emerges in the movie, because Eddie Brock has visitor privileges with Cletus Kasady, and Venom is allegedly the only symbiote left on Earth after Carlton Drake and Riot got blown up at the end of the first film.
Hey, I'm sorry about Riot.
Moving on, the newly empowered Kasady dubbed himself Carnage and indeed made good on that name by going on a veritable killing spree through New York City. He was so powerful that Spider-Man had to enlist the help of both the Fantastic Four and Venom to take down this red menace. So does this mean we might possibly see a Fantastic Four cameo in the new movie? No, definitely not. This is not the MCU, this is the SPUMC, Sony Pictures Universe of Marvel characters. It's right there in the easy-to-repeat name that rolls right off the tongue, SPUMC. Anyway, Carnage is ultimately defeated and imprisoned at Ravencroft, thereby completing the circle. And he never hurt anyone ever again until like 2 months later. And like most comic book characters, and more specifically most Spider-Man characters, Carnage has had plenty of deeply weird experiences during his 30 years on the page. After being separated from his symbiote, Cletus attempted to become a supervillain again by painting himself red and claiming he was still Carnage, which... sure, who among us hasn't done the same thing? He was eventually reunited with the symbiote in the negative zone, survived being torn into pieces by Sentry in low orbit, was a member of both the Thunderbolts and the Astonishing Avengers, and even stole the Darkhold and communicated with the Elder God Chthon. Now, if you don't remember what the Darkhold is, that's the ancient magical tome that Wanda Maximoff took from Agatha Harkness at the end of WandaVision. And we have a whole video or 3 explaining the exact powers of the Darkhold and what it means for the MCU, so you can check those out as well. But does this mean we'll possibly see a Scarlet Witch cameo in the Venom sequel? No. Again, not gonna happen. No matter how many letters I send to Jonathan, Sony, or whatever, it's not gonna happen. Anyway, on top of being a horrifically violent serial killer, Carnage is incredibly fast, powerful, can take over multiple people's minds, travel via telephone line, and even grow larger by eating other alien life forms, which is pretty par for the course for the Clintar race. You know, that planet where Venom and the other symbiotes are from? Yeah, Clintar!
Hey, I'm sorry about Clintar.
And there you have it, folks, a brief overview of what you need to know about the Cletus Kasady version of Carnage. Now, suffice to say, Venom Let There Be Carnage is shaping up to be the deeply silly yet deadly showdown we've been waiting for ever since Woody Harrelson first showed up in the post-credits of Venom, looking like he just robbed a yarn factory. But in the meantime, folks, tell us, what's your favorite Carnage storyline? Do you think there's going to be another secret cameo in this sequel? And were you one of the few people that actually beat Maximum Carnage for the Super Nintendo? If so, let us know in the comments below. And for the latest and greatest in pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.